in life, you're interviewing. I think if you approach it, most people just worried about that middle column. How am I doing? I'm here now, and I think law school teaches us to be very reactive because it's so busy, right? You're just always thinking about the next step because it's like a storm, right? It's a constant like thunderstorm like hitting, right? From all angles. And I'm not going to tell you guys, just forget about that and you need to become proactive because I understand there are only 16 hours a day and you have all these things coming at you. And we're not even talking about life obligation, we're just talking about law school. But if you just have an hour to think about where you're going and prepare, then for our purposes, it's how do these companies work? How do the summer programs work? What is expected of me from the clients? Who are my colleagues? Like if you're going to go work for a place. The more you do that kind of prep and that kind of thinking, your performance is going to get better. So every firm has created a system where when you do work product in Palo Alto, DC can have access to it and vice versa. So every time you get an assignment as a summer associate, and you probably get training on this, I think even corporate departments, government departments, they're going to have variations of this. It might not be as extensive, but if you find out what internal system they have, if they have any, it will really help you like start your research right there. In that regard, if you're going to be there for a long time, you should document all your work too, even if like they were just like, oh, look in something, I don't need a memo, just come and debrief me. Write a memo to yourself or to the file, memo to file, document it, save it on the system, because 3 years later, you're going to be kicking yourself. I looked into this before, and I know there was like, what did I do? Where is it in my emails? Good habits and library. Sometimes they're just pretty rooms that people sit and read, but every big firm has a librarian, and these librarians can find things like free market versus structured, not as relevant to you who are going to be summers. That just simply means how do you get your work? Is there a coordinator that gives you your assignments in your practice area? Or is this a free market, meaning you start, some people give you work, maybe they'll keep coming back and giving you more, but you have to go knock on people's doors and see if they need help. As an attorney even, you only see step number 1. That's why we all dislike this so much. Because we're like, why do you make me enter my time every day? Why do you want me to release my time every day? And even in cases now where we have alternative fee arrangements, where it's like flat rates, we still bid our time because we want to see if we're making good economic decisions, right? But I wanted to put this chart up, so maybe it will make the pain of billing a little less. That when you enter your time, it goes through all these other stages. The accounting department we talked about will create a pre-bill. And the partner reviews it, because each client might have both billing guidelines of how you should phrase your time. They might also have different rules. One might pay for travel only if you're working on that flight for that client. Another one might just say, I just don't pay for travel, right? So the partner reviews it. Sometimes partner delegates it to his assistant who's used to it. And then after that, accounting creates the final bill, sends it. Who are you looking for? Who are the people that impress you in the interviews? And as well as who are the people that while they're working with you, whether as interns or as junior attorneys, that are really impressive to you?
I guess I will start. Let's first start with the interview, okay? Because that's getting in the door. The interview, I've been on several interviewing panels, and what I'm looking for as a part of that panel, very first, is competence. I want to see someone who is competent in what they know. Now, if you're, a 1L, you're competent in 1L skills. You don't have to say, or stretch the truth in terms of what you know, because we're also looking for that as well. Competence is really important. And there's a balance between competence and confidence and arrogance. We have to be careful about that, because I love competence. I love someone who's very confident in what they know. But one thing that will really destroy your chances from my perspective in terms of hiring is arrogance.
So once again, Doris has given you a pretty good roadmap on how to approach working with any lawyer. I will say this, and I will recommend that you write this down. Under promise and over deliver.
Oh, yes.
What I mean by that is a couple of things. First, do not, in sitting down the first time talking to an attorney, tell them that you're going to present them with something that is above and beyond what they're asking or what you think you're capable of doing. And that applies not only to the final work product itself, but also in terms of timing. You've got multiple layers, right? Doris has a style that I've got to learn because she's hired me. Okay, and if Doris wants to show that we're fighting for her client and wants to see stronger language in there, that's what I've got to give her. So then the associate I work with has got to give me that, and you below that are going to have to learn that. That takes years. You're not going to cover that over a summer, and you're not going to be expected to cover that over a summer. You are going to be expected to cover this over a summer. And some of these questions are going to require you to ask the question, what format do you want this in? So some people will say, give me a memo on a topic, with the expectation that somebody else, maybe me, maybe an associate, will lift from that memo and put it into a brief. Others might say, write this section of the brief. Okay, here's the rest of the brief. Write this section of the brief. And so that's going to be different than writing a legal memo. So you're not going to know that until you ask the question. So don't assume that the lawyer who is presenting the assignment to you is giving you all of the information you need. Because I'm ahead of you in this game. I have more facts. I know what I'm doing this for. I know why I'm doing it. And I might just say to you, hey, I need you to do some research and tell me what's going on with sexual orientation in Title VII. You want to ask more questions. You want to get more information, ideally in the first meeting. But if you're not clear, as Doris said earlier, come on back. Because I would much rather you take 10 to 15 minutes of my time to make sure that you go down the right path than to give me something that is beautiful, but that I have to rework and create another layer, because then Doris is going to yell at me because we spent too much time and cost so much money, because what you did was great, but it didn't serve the purpose.
That's right.
So what's worse than perfect and late is late and inaccurate.
And most of the time, we have people like Carter who get to manage all of our caseload for us. And if I'm concerned about, what our deadlines are, Carter is going to make sure we stay on track. So if I'm asking that question, I want to know exactly what I asked for, and those are the due dates. And I love the initiative at the bottom. Let me know if I can help. Because those are the times where you get called in, and if you save the day in some way, you become indispensable to that attorney. So I love that whenever a law clerk kind of ends their communication that way, is there something I can do to help? I think it's great. If I was in a pinch, the reason why I don't like the left, although I like the fact that it gives more context, is so often I'm on a smartphone, running from meetings to meetings. And sometimes I just need to know what I asked for, and that's it. And I have 30 seconds to review it before I go on. Visually, the first one, the one on the left, I would have to wait and let me read for a second before I go into the elevator. The one on the right, I can get it and keep on going, and I have what I need. Summer events in-house are a little different, more baseball games than black tie events. I think they're great. You want to get to know each other outside of kind of the workplace sort of setting. And it's great to have a really genuine conversation with the folks who are in the office with you and be yourself, you know. Sometimes I think some law clerks come and they think that they have to portray like the perfect law clerk, whatever that is. And they're kind of like uptight and uncomfortable and trying to say the perfect thing when everyone asks them a question. And look, these attorneys that you work with, they go to the grocery store, they have kids in school, they are normal individuals. Be normal, relax, you know.
If you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Nothing. So we're going to change that. So we're going to always have a plan. And that doesn't mean your career counselors, your employers, your trusted advisors from until now. It doesn't matter if they're not lawyers. They know you. They believe in you. So that doesn't mean that they are not going to be good in this journey, but you are in the driver's seat. In order to come up with a plan, first we need to know where we're going. Kind of like what we talked about earlier this morning, but think of it as if you're trying to go to New York. First, you got to know where is it on the map, and then you have to figure out where am I in relation to that, and then you have to figure out your steps. Makes sense, right? So with that, let's go into each one of the steps, and then I'm going to tell you what I want you to do with those worksheets. My point to you is you don't like it because you're thinking about it the wrong way. Why are you defining it as artificial and draining? Who said you got to define it like that? Why don't you, as intelligent as you are, and this far you've come, why don't you take it and make it your own? It's the same thing with law school. Everybody did study groups. I went to one. Rule against perpetuities. I thought I knew it. I came out of the study group and I forgot everything about it. And I didn't do that well in that midterm. I was like, I went through the whole college and I didn't do study groups. I know how to study. I'm going to stick with what works for me. And it worked. So it's the same thing with networking. You've been doing it all your life. You just didn't call it networking. And now that you're calling it networking, you don't like it. So the first thing you do is make connections. You go to a networking event, you came lined up here, you get that card, you make that connection. The reason you don't like it is because you're viewing it as a networking event that then you access is my nice way of saying use. So like you access the connection. Now, sometimes you're looking for a job, you go to a recruiting event. That's absolutely appropriate. Everybody is there for the same purpose. They're coming there to sell their firm or their government agency or whatever to you. You're there to get a job. So there's nothing wrong with that. What I'm telling you is that is the weakest form of networking. The best type of networking is you do this so well that you never have to ask for a job again after you get your first job because opportunities will come to you. So this is the problem. We're looking at networking as everything without that middle part of nurturing the relationship. How do you nurture? I'll give you my secrets in the next slide. But you keep in touch. You keep in touch and you think about this person. So when I go to the networking event, I usually have a goal. And the goal is not to get a job. My goal is to meet somebody I like. Somebody that I genuinely enjoy interacting with. I like their vibe. They like me. It's chemistry. It's not about taking. It's about giving. If you look at it as an opportunity to make a genuine connection at that event, and then as you go through your life and your school life, you think about ways to help this person, give them a platform. Are you in a student organization? Are you having a cool event? Reach out and invite this person. If I'm writing an article featuring great attorneys, I will reach out to this general counsel and people and give them a platform.
Bank of America is probably my biggest client, and they send $40 to $50 million of work here every year that keep hundreds of people busy. Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook is my client, and the work that comes into the firm comes in through me. Those relationships, just to pick those two, came to me because of those concentric circles. The general counsel of Bank of America today is the guy who was my boss when I worked in the White House counsel's office. The general counsel of Facebook today is a guy who was in my small section group in law school, first year. One of the other people who was in my small section group that first year was Ketanji Brown Jackson, who was on the short list to be on the Supreme Court. We had dinner like a month ago. Those relationships have created a set of opportunities that I've been able to leverage into business. And so if you would ask me, like, why do I need to think about client development and when should I start thinking about client development? The answer is now. Somebody you're in the room with today is going to be your friend for life. And 10, 15, 25 years from now, one of you is going to be in a position to help another one of you. Or to say to somebody, that person's really good at X, and that matters a lot.
You mentioned you employ a lot of people. You've employed a lot of people over the years. Is there some qualities that makes a good associate or somebody that really impresses you along the way?
Yeah. First thing is say yes when somebody asks you to do something, and the second thing is do a good job, right? Okay. It's not more complicated than that, right? Just be nice and be responsive, and you really don't know like which relationships are gonna turn into like a really big matter and win.
What if you make a big mistake? Are you guys worried about that? So I can tell you 99% of mistakes are fixable. You basically go and say, I made a mistake, and somebody will fix it. The worst thing you can do is not say anything about it. So when you make a mistake, first thing you do is go sit down, take a deep breath, and assess, confirm. Did I really make a mistake, or am I being paranoid? If you made a mistake, second step, assess the scope of your mistake.
When I got out of St. Mary's, I came to DC. This was 2006. And I was made a consultant. So I had a very cushy job. I was working from home in DC, and everything was really great. And that lasted about 2 months. And then we lost our funding. And so here I am from, admittedly, a fourth-tier school outside of Texas, so no brand recognition, in Washington with a expensive apartment and no money. So I did what a lot of folks have done in this town, a lot of lawyers, is I started doing contract law and doc review. And I lasted doing that about 7 months, but I couldn't shake like, all right, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to practice sanctions somehow. I sent out a lot of applications. I got 0 interviews. I got a lot of denial letters. So today, Ferrari Associates has grown from me being in a literally box-shaped office and sleeping under the desk many nights to a small firm. We have 9 employees, 5 associates. And Sanction Law has grown from a blog into a subscription-based research site. And as I mentioned, I got a lot of job denials from a lot of firms. And it's interesting because now a lot of those firms actually subscribe to the blog and look to us as a source for OFAC sanctions. So it's a little bit of vengeance, and it's sweet. One, I guess, takeaway from this whole thing is that at first you don't succeed, try again, but also was the focus. I think a lot of people come out and they make the mistake, I'm going to be criminal lawyer. There's lots of criminal lawyers. Or I'm going to be a family law lawyer. There's lots of family law lawyers. What I did was I said, all right, there's this one agency and this one set of laws I'm interested in. I'm just going to focus on that. Now, that practice is going to span criminal work, administrative work, civil litigation, but so be it. So what I would say as young lawyers or law students is really find what you're passionate about. I know it's cliche. And then decide how you can make that as niche as possible and how you can dominate that niche. And there's a very good book on this by a guy, I think his name is Jack Trout. Short book, it's called Positioning. And I would highly recommend anyone who, particularly anybody who's looking to start a practice, their own practice, that they read that book, because it really helps from thinking about, okay, what am I going to do and how am I going to present myself to clients, which is something they just don't teach you in school. So I think